passion. Cold like 0 degrees. I'm out the cage, gotta let out the beast. Revolutionary, gotta let out the streets. Locked in a cage, I'ma let out the sheets. We came for one, man, forget my peace. You take the west, I'll take on the east. I'ma put them in the cage, never let out the. I hear him chat to the noise, move too quick, can't stop for the talking. I hear him chat with the boys, man so tough, but man's keep walking, yeah. Just too sharp with the prize, like guys, better tell me I'm awesome, yeah. Hot like fire on the pan, if you wanna touch my please use caution. Stop that, stop that, stop that.
Happy Greg Cody Tuesday. We finally, after many years, have Stugotz paying a punishment. That punishment is sensual in nature. He has a towel he is whipping. He is Larry Bird. Mike Ryan, you remember this Larry Bird footage from a million years ago of him on the sidelines in his short shorts. Stugotz is rocking the short shorts. Looks sexy as hell. Thank you, Stugotz, for finally paying a penalty. Please put the towel away. You're going to knock over my coffee.
It's Larry.
I hate to do this, but as you know, I rule with an iron fist, and those are home whites. Larry did that in a white uniform, so this doesn't count.
Are you winded from whipping that towel, Stugotz? You sound a bit winded. Larry Bird didn't look great in that uniform. You look worse.
Yes, I am winded.
Okay.
Just trying to get my headsets in, Dana.
Yeah, the wig is wonderful.
I think it was the hip thrust. A couple of those hip thrusts, he was a little tired.
It was a little bit too much pelvic movement for my comfort, close to my ears and stuff. I believe, though, that I can now, and it hurts me to say this, I think I can call it. The Celtics have finished the Heat. That whole thing is over now. I don't think the Heat are going to rebound. You really sound winded.
I am winded. Mike finished the Heat, not the Celtics.
Well, I think I have this right. Is this stat correct? Since Udonis Haslem disrespected Bill Russell, since Spo signed an enormous contract, and since Mike Ryan said the Heat are good, they have not won a single game, and furthermore, have gotten slaughtered in all of them. It's not like they're losing close games. They're losing at home to Memphis. They're never in that game against Phoenix, and I don't know how to explain how Bam looked last night. Since they traded for Terry Rozier, they haven't won a game either. They look truly terrible. This is the longest losing streak of Eric Spoelstra's career, immediately after signing an 8-year, $120 million contract.
Yeah. 7 games in a row. They haven't lost 6 in a row since 2021. Obviously, they did go to the Eastern Conference Finals that year, but this has been a mess. Like, their offense looks totally disjointed. It hasn't gotten better with Terry Rozier in there, despite the fact that he played okay last night, obviously. But their defense has really been the biggest issue. You see guys getting beat off the point of attack, then they're scrambling to try to cover for the guys who typically are very good wing defenders, and they're leaving guys wide open for 3. There was a stat Ron Rothstein mentioned in the postgame show last night of paint touches for the other team versus the Miami Heat. When there's paint touches going for 3-point attempts during this 7-game losing streak, the opposing team is shooting 59%, while the Heat are shooting just 37%. So they're struggling from 3. They're struggling to move the ball. The guys aren't cutting the way that we're used to. It's been pretty dreadful over the last 7 games.
On the plus side, though, they did get under the luxury tax.
On the minus side, though, 21. Minus 21 when Terry Rozier was on the court.
That's 3 straight games of under 20.
Nurkic looked pretty good. For a throw-in in the deal that Miami didn't want.
I don't know what you do with the fact that they have stunk when their 3 guys are out there. They have been really bad. Tyler Hero is explaining after the game that he's going to change his game to be catch-and-shoot guy, and that's not ideal, but they haven't been very good when he's not just catch-and-shoot guy. It's going to take a minute to adapt to Terry Rozier, but I did not have them losing at Memphis and then just getting dragged by everybody. The Heat were a favorite in last night's game because Phoenix lost at Orlando the night before. Back-to-backs, teams come in here tired. Phoenix didn't look very tired last night.
Phoenix is I'm wondering if Phoenix is a team that we have to keep an eye on because
this sounds very sharp. This sounds.
What do you mean?
I don't know whether it's your voice or whether it's your mic.
I cleared it out, but I'm telling you that Phoenix might be a team that we should keep an eye on, Dan. They've been playing very
You
well.
just sound very loud. You sound
It's a
unusually
bold
loud.
It's a bold stance by Stugotz to keep an eye on the team
game.
with Kevin Durant and Bradley Beal.
Yeah,
And
well,
Devin Booker.
And Devin Booker.
I'm just saying they've won 8 of 10. They're the 6th seed right now in the Western Conference, and I'm wondering if the Phoenix Suns are a team that could win an NBA championship. In fact, I'm going to say it. I said yesterday that the Clippers are a team that are going to win the NBA championship. But if they don't, the Phoenix Suns will.
Are you
How
just
about
learning?
that?
Are you just learning about the Suns?
Well, they're just getting healthy right now. They're just getting healthy. They got off to a shaky start.
I particularly don't
Larry
enjoy.
Bird. I know what I'm talking
I don't enjoy playing the Phoenix Suns because they, more than any other team, represent the Miami Heat's greatest failings over the last few years, be it drafting Justice Winslow over Devin Booker, be it constantly missing out on Kevin Durant, be it you choose not to pursue Bradley Beal, be it that their new owner is constantly taking Mickey Arrison's lunch money. It's just a constant reminder of this franchise's failings over the last few years.
All right, all you naysayers, let me remind you about something. The Heat is the hardest working, best conditioned, most professional, unselfish, toughest, meanest, nastiest team in the NBA. Did you ever notice how Heat culture sounds a lot better when they're winning? Right now, Heat culture reminds me of when the Dolphins not only sucked, but were boring. And after every score, they would still play that song about, and we're talking Super Bowl because we're the... It seemed ridiculous then.
You should know the song better than that.
Yeah, I could
You
sing
really-
the whole. I could sing
Please
the
do.
whole song.
Please
Fades
do.
at
Please
50.
do.
I
Hold
mean,
on,
come
everybody
on.
get out of the way.
Dan, at the time it was boring, so he was bored with the song.
Everybody
Exactly.
get out of
Method
the
actor.
way, just so that you understand. Stugotz is saying keep an eye on the Suns. Devin Booker, before last night, was averaging 50 points a game in his last 3 games and isn't their best player. Go ahead, Greg Cody. Get us started with sing the whole song more correctly. Honor it. Respect the song, please.
Okay, I wish I had the lyrics in front of me. You're asking a lot here.
You just said you could sing the whole
I
song.
lied. Let me think, though. Okay. We take the ball from goal to goal like no one's ever seen. We're in the air, we're on the ground, we're always in control. And when you say Miami, you're talking Super Bowl, 'cause we're the Miami Dolphins, Miami Dolphins, Miami Dolphins #1. Yes, we're the Miami. And the Heat should start playing that song at their games right now in the middle of a 7-game losing streak. The disappointment to me is that the Heat, among all the other disappointments of this season, they have no respite at home. They're 12-11 at home. It's not, and you play a back-to-back game at home and you don't win. There's nothing going right. It's the low point of Spoelstra's career. It's got to be.
Let's put up on the screen, please, by way of greeting and hello for Greg Cody, what Angel Resto painted him as a caricature.
He lost in the finals.
He did lose in the finals,
Twice.
but what he's saying is
But you
this
made
is
the
the
finals.
worst
Right, yeah.
stretch of his career.
Right.
Is what he's saying. Not this is the worst he's ever felt.
They were
right?
11-30 in the first half of one season, and they had multiple 6-game losing streaks in that respect.
Right.
Obviously, this is 7, and it's bad because the expectations are a lot higher, but low point of his career is
I am
interesting.
willing to say that loss at home to Memphis is the lowest that Eric Spoelstra has felt at any time in his life. Now let's put up the picture here of.
He just went through a divorce.
I know this. I'm aware of this.
Adding to the lowness.
That's correct. Thank you. Thank you. Making it even worse. That is correct. Here is the picture of Greg Cody, the rendering of Greg Cody. He looks particularly embalmed. He looks a bit angry. The eyebrows look just like wild shrubbery. And he looks 143 years old.
Right. Now, here's the thing about that caricature. That if I'm laying down in a casket, that's what I expect to look like. It's just it's me at age 85. My face is huge. My hair is really, really gray. The eyebrows. My wife's going to have me cremated, I'm sure. You know, I'm going to burn at about 1,800 degrees in a tube, so I'll never be in a casket. But if I were, that would be the look.
Have you guys talked about this?
We have not. It's just an assumption. It's an assumption. I mean,
Why would you assume
Why are
that?
you? Yeah.
Well, it's a family tradition.
$5.
It's a family tradition. We
$5
have an
for
urn.
coughing right into the microphone.
Guy don't want to earn. Guy wants to earn.
That's right. You got it. You should request being burned at 1440. You know what I mean?
What?
To honor your
It
family.
would take longer. It
But-
would take a lot longer.
You'd appreciate it
It'd
more.
be a
I
slow
think.
burn.
Yeah.
You won't
Gotta
feel
want to learn. Gotta want to earn. I do want to earn.
And you want to burn.
Exactly.
Hell yeah.
Thank you.
Live in an urn.
I feel like Angel actually did you a service looking at that side by side.
Looks better.
Yeah, he did.
Younger?
Yeah, the hair especially much fuller look, and
Well, I
you
mean-
actually have more liver spots than Angel accounted for.
Well, I see one under my right eye there. There's a little.
No, but
spot
he's
there.
saying you have, in actuality, more liver spots
I
on
do,
your
yeah.
actual face than
Yeah.
you do in the caricature.
Right. I'm a living man, a liver man.
That's right.
I see 4 of them right now.
Let's count the liver
Oh, there's
spots.
a 5th. Yeah, how about
Okay,
that?
yeah. There's one big one here, and then like a little slurry of them over there. That's why I've started wearing makeup. I do my own makeup now. It's sad, but you go through that. You live and you learn, right? That kind of thing. But no, Angel. I love Angel Resto. He's super talented. He's the one who did the Greg Cody Show podcast logo, which I appreciated. Although it cost me a bunch of money, it's not like he did it for free. But no, he's really good. He's really, really good, and I appreciate that caricature. I really do.
Did you think it was worth the money, or like?
No, I did.
Once you saw it, you're like, oh.
Well, it's like maybe it might have been a little north of what I would have guessed he would have charged, but he's an artist. You're paying for talent. You're paying for an Angel Resto, so worth every penny of it, truly.
What are we paying for on Tuesdays?
A Greg Cody.
Are you also
Greg Cody
winded
experience.
from watching Greg, from watching Stugotz do his towel thing?
I'm not winded at all. I mean, I've been on. I've been talking a lot, like the last minute and a half.
I think Greg's about to get a second wind. You know?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
So you didn't try to haggle at all, huh?
No, I'm not a big haggler. Marvin is, but I'm not a big haggler.
Leaving money on the table.
Marvelous.
Exactly. No, I don't haggle. That's why I was bad at swap meets. Back in the swap meet era, like some guy's asking for 35 cents for an old record album. What am I going to try to talk him down to a quarter? It's more embarrassing for me to try to save a dime. But when Aunt Bonnie moved out of her house in Pembroke Pines, we had this massive yard sale.
This is not a flattering angle for Larry Bird.
The worst. Listen, retirement has not been good to me. I mean, it hasn't.
The hair, though. I mean, come on.
I can't look at myself, Dan. I
the
thank you for pointing it out.
I mean,
though.
well, but it's right there.
Yeah.
I can't avoid it.
Jesus.
It's right on the screen. The green is not slimming.
I'm wearing a large, okay? I've been saying for a year now they're not making XLs like they used to make them. I now wear a double XL. This outfit, this costume is a large. This is dreadful, man. But it's a punishment, and I got to pay it off.
Historically accurate.
Well, what happened at Bonnie's garage sale, though?
Yeah,
before
that's
we
right.
stray
Aunt
too
Bon.
far, yeah.
Well, it was a massive garage sale, and I experienced firsthand people trying to talk you down from an already ridiculously low thing. Like she had 3. She's a hoarder, Aunt Bonnie, and so at her garage sale she had like 3 or 4 beer can chicken things. The little wire with a beer can that you put it in the middle of a chicken cavity or a turkey cavity. So she's asking like $1 for each of those, and people are trying to talk you down to 50 cents. I don't get it. It's $1.
A penny saves a penny earned, Greg.
It's never been used. If you go to Target, it probably costs you $3.99 or whatever a typical price is. Always ends in 99 or 95, like gas, 99.99 or something. But so we had to, you go, no,
Just round
it's
it up, I
$1.
guess. Yeah.
Exactly. Charge me $4 a gallon, not $3.95.99.
If you're at 99, will you go a little extra and just try to round it off?
Oh, that's a competition I play with myself.
Right.
Yeah.
But then it goes over and you're at 501.
And then I got to go to 505.
Yeah.
I got to end
Well,
on a 0
Why
or
would
a
you add
5.
$4.
Yeah. No, I never end on a ragged number. It's always a 0 or a 5.
How are you with negotiating cars?
Now that I'll negotiate because you're talking about a real savings. I once walked out of a Dodge dealer back in the days before we had kids. we're buying a Dodge Caravan.
I knew you were a Dodge man.
Well, we're buying a Dodge Caravan because kids are coming, so we needed a minivan. And we had arranged the deal, but I was still in negotiating mode. So I'm like, you got a deal if you throw in the upgrade floor mats, okay? That would have cost the dealership maybe a total of $175 or something to throw in those.
If that.
If that. He goes to see his manager, they wouldn't do it. Okay, I was calling his bluff, then he called my bluff, and much to my wife's dismay,
Over floor mats?
I got up and I walked out of that dealership. And I've never been back again.
Yeah.
I'm not going to name the dealership because I don't want to send business over there.
Isn't that a great feeling? Even though you leave without something that you need in a car, just getting up and walking out and saying, this deal's not going to happen because of me. Now, you then need to figure out a new car situation and go through the whole rigmarole elsewhere. But when you get up and you have that power telling the dealer, nope, and then they come chasing you down, and you have to hold strong. You're not getting a car from that dealership. If they don't throw in those floor mats, you're not getting a car there.
Exactly.
Put it on the poll, please, Juju. Have you ever stormed out of a negotiation?
Never. Not at Williamson Cadillac. Williamson is Miami.
Tony, aren't you trying to buy a car now?
Dano, I'm the person that people call when they want to buy a car. So I love the car buying experience. Like, there is something so satiating to me to sit across from that car salesman and be like, I'm not paying that. I want you to know that. This is embarrassing. I'm embarrassed that you would bring this to me and ask me to pay this.
So your friends bring you in as a negotiator?
That's right. Lewis is going to buy a car soon. I'm going to do it with him, my wife, my brother, my brother-in-law, everybody.
Because they trust you to be the stoic ass who scares the guy who negotiates for a living.
Dan, the thing is, I'm a bit of a dork when it comes to the car buying experience. So I know things that the dealer's going to try to do to try and kind of give you the how's your uncle without really telling you, right? There's a couple things, residual, the cap cost, the money factor. There's things, especially when you're negotiating a lease, that you can look in where the dealership's going to try and hide money because they want it on the back end. Ayo. But if you know what you're looking for, you can get it and you can be like, hey, this right here is absolute bullshit. I'm not paying that. You need to come down.
Greg Cody wanted an explanation for, hey, how's your uncle? He was confused by that saying.
Oh, whoa. How's your uncle?
My wife prefers Stugotz.
Snug.
My wife prefers the bargain portion of the buying experience than getting whatever it is that she's actually getting. She will not buy something unless it is reduced from what she thinks it is worth. But Bud Grant, the late Bud Grant, told us how to handle all forms of haggling at when you're having some sort of sale in your house, whether it's a garage sale or anything else.
Take a walk.
That's how Bud Grant would do it anytime. We present him hypotheticals. It's for $1. Somebody tells you they're going to give you 99 cents. Bud, how do you react to that?
Take a walk.
You have to. You got to draw the line.
I miss him.
Draw a hard line.
We all do.
Car buying is.
Bargains.
Ooh, sorry. Sorry about that, bud. Car buying is more about leverage than anything, right? If you can pit two dealerships against one another, you'll get exactly what you want at the price that you want.
There's nothing more powerful than saying, hey, dealership up the road's offering me this, and you guys are competing with them, right?
Right.
For my business, right?
Yeah.
And you're not going to match them. I'm just going to go over there. And they're like, whoa, wait a second. I think we can talk to the manager. The manager knows everything.
Yes.
Right? He's the person that's the brain of the operation.
They don't actually talk to the manager a lot of the time.
Of course they do. Of course they do, Billy.
No,
that's
they
why
don't.
I know
They just say, hey, I'm going to go talk to the manager, and then they
Okay.
go, they have a coffee,
Like
they drink
my
water
guy.
from the water
That's
fountain.
fine.
They come
I'm
right
gonna
back,
make-
and they lower it.
Here's the thing. I'm going to make him do it.
Amount.
I'm going to make him do it 30 times. Like, he's going to go up and talk to that manager 30 times while I'm there.
I believe that when you go to a car dealership, they love it. They go, oh, this is one of those guys.
No,
We
they
get
love
to,
when
now
you
we
go
get to
there.
dance.
One of those guys.
No, they like to dance. Oh, this is one of those guys. We get to dance now. We're going to start out at some exorbitant price, some ridiculous price.
They do.
He's going to bring it down to what we were going to offer him anyways, if not a little more than we were going to offer him.
Yeah.
And he's going to think he gets a W. Then we'll throw in some floor mats, and everyone will be on their way.
No, so you don't get it, Billy.
They see you, and they're like, you know
No.
what this guy needs today? He needs a car, and he needs a win. And we're going to give him that win.
No.
But we're going to start so high so that his win is our win.
By the way, car prices are through the roof right now. If you're going to buy a car, they're very expensive. So 2 years ago during the pandemic, you could have gotten a car for a steal. The guy was telling me I was giving away cars during the pandemic. Okay,
There
so
was a
you know.
shortage. There's a shortage of cars. It was impossible to get
Of
cars
used
2
cars,
years
yes,
ago.
new cars. Not the point. The point is, I'm going to make that guy go to the manager 30 different times. We're going to fight on the price, and at the end, he's going to say, "You got an employee discount, buddy. I don't know what to tell you."
Take a walk.
I couldn't be less like Tony in this regard. Like we're currently trying to buy a house, and we were talking with the seller and our real estate agent about possible prices on a roof because the roof needs to be redone, and they're only going to give us so much money, and our real estate agent's negotiating, and we wanted a certain number, and so our real estate agent said that he was willing to give up a certain amount on his commission to be able to reach that number. And I said to my wife, like, "Oh, well, you know, it's fine. We can do without that extra few grand because he's done a really good job." And she's like, "You're just going to give up a few $1,000?" And I was like, "Well, he's really nice."
Stugotz, this is true, and I don't even remember the details, but Stugotz thinks he's Tony, but is actually you, Jeremy, because he goes into the negotiations feeling like, I'm going to get them down, and then next thing you know, they're offering him less than they were before, and I've got a non-compete clause because he's negotiating the deal. Like
Yeah, that's right.
It's a strange thing. My father's the same way. My father has come home trying to negotiate a lower price for a mattress and ended up paying more than what the original price was. I don't understand how it is that they get discombobulated by the salespeople. But I want to get. You look like a golden girl, by the way, Stugotz. A golden girl with stubble is what you look like.
Thank you. I can't look at myself, Dan. So.
It's fun. The wig is amazing. The wig really, the wig, and you showing that much skin on the arms really brings the whole thing together.
Before the show, for some reason, Dan, he was wearing his hat on top of the wig, and we were confused as to why he was doing that. And we were saying in this room that he looks like the middle-aged, like, adult in Spanish television that plays the role of a child, like an adolescent. Like the shows where it's all middle-aged adults playing 10-year-olds is what he looked like when he had that hat on. And we don't know why he had that hat on.
I always have the hat on.
He was trying to conceal how ridiculous he looks. He was
Yes,
trying to make it a little more normal. I was starting to say that I believe the Celtics-Heat rivalry is now over, and Udonis Haslem says it is not. On the OGs podcast with Mike Miller, here's what he's had to say last week about if he sees Kevin Garnett and Paul Pierce in public.
My era, we used to hate the mother that we used to have to go against in the rivalries and all that. To this day, you know what I'm saying? Y'all know how I feel when we got to play the Celtics. I can't stand them.
First of all,
and I have nothing against. And I have listen.
Hold on, man.
And the crazy thing about it,
can I tell a story
like
about it in
Tatum.
the huddle, man?
I like Tatum and I like Brown.
I would love for you to tell me.
Can I tell a story about it in the huddle, man?
What? I like Tatum. I like Brown.
Nah,
Them
not
old
that.
AG and Paul. I don't f y'all. Y'all know
There
that.
it go.
It's cool.
There it go.
I don't fuck y'all.
There you
Y'all
go.
know
He
that.
done
It's
got him
cool.
started.
I'm cool on that. The young generation, y'all can create your own beef and y'all can create your own whatever. The old motherfuckers already know. I see y'all in the grocery store. It's home.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And I don't care what aisle it is. It could be a 7-Eleven around the mother cheese dip. It's like whatever. All that and flipped over.
Do you believe, put it on the poll, Juju, would Udonis Haslem fight Paul Pierce near the cheese dip in 7-Eleven? Yes or no?
Paul Pierce for sure. KG, I don't know so much, but Paul's been talking shit for a long time.
You're saying he would not fight KG?
I think there's a little bit more love between KG and OG than there is with OG and Paul Pierce.
A little bit of respect, at least, you would think.
Could you imagine turning on like ESPN or TMZ and it's just like Udonis Haslem and Kevin Garnett start fighting in the middle of a grocery store? The cause was they just didn't like each other from their playing days. Like, the idea is insane. They're both like very successful. They're business owners. Like, you can't just go and start fighting in the middle of a grocery store.
The 7-game losing streak makes you realize they really miss Udonis Haslem, huh? Invaluable in that locker room.
Mike Ryan, how do you feel presently about the state of your Miami Heat?
I had it wrong. They're not good. They are a play-in team. I said definitively, they're not a play-in team. They're a play-in team.
Well, they may
hopefully.
not. They may not be.
Yeah,
things keep going this way.
Hopefully. It's just they're reaping what they sow.
Character needs work. Stugotz, you know that Mike Ryan has ripped Carmelo Anthony a great deal recently. Got into a huge argument with Amin Al-Hassan about the relevance of Carmelo Anthony. Carmelo is mad because he is saying that the Nuggets gave Jokic his number in a petty move to erase Melo. And now Charles Barkley is saying of Jalen Brunson, he's making the Knicks more relevant than any time the Knicks have been since Patrick Ewing. So Charles Barkley is also erasing Carmelo Anthony. I want to just show you a picture of Charles Barkley here in studio, Stugotz, with Luka, because I don't think that the younger generation understands when they see Charles Barkley and hear a loudmouth that led the league in rebounding. Shorter than Luka. I've stood next to Charles. He's barely bigger than me. Now, his ass is around where my shoulders are. But Charles Barkley, look up some of the stats for me, Jeremy, the rebounding stats on Charles Barkley, because Pablo Torre joins us now. Pablo Torre Finds Out is his podcast. It's streaking up the charts. It's very popular. He's doing smarter stuff than most people. But what do you think there, Pablo, when you look at the photo of Charles Barkley standing next to Luka and looking so small next to Luka?
Yeah, I think that Charles Barkley needs to get someone to make one of those highlight reels set to modern rap music so kids can appreciate what he was. Because I'm just on the border, Dan. I was born in 85. But I remember there are videos of Charles Barkley doing things that are genuinely jaw-dropping if you only know him as the guy who struggles to pick up his leg to fake karate kick Shaq. And this is just an example of how it is that he was overcoming people who were larger at his time, let alone in comparison to Luka, who's also shockingly tall, as a side note.
He averaged 12 rebounds a game for his career.
I mean, he led the league 1 year with 14.5 rebounds per game. And again, he was barely 6'5", if he was 6'5". I'm not sure. I want to read to you guys a quote, and I want you to tell me who it is that it came from. Quote, "It's always a fast break when I have the ball." This is a quote from last night, actually. "It's always a fast break when I have the ball."
Josh Richardson.
Funnier than that. I've got something funnier than that.
For the other team,
I might know.
That's pretty funny.
Was it Ben Simmons?
It was Ben Simmons.
Oh, really? He's back?
In his first
You're
game back.
next. I mean,
in his first game back, he had 10, 11, and 8, and he announced his arrival for the Nets with, "It's always a fast break when I have the ball." It is.
But I'm not shooting.
Pablo, I know people have gotten tired of it, but I think it's one of the most fascinating stories in the sport, the mental short-circuiting of this player.
Yeah, look, I have been for a long time his foremost, surrogate on sports talk, radio, and television, because I've always believed that Ben Simmons is mostly a flying car without a stereo. He can do everything except for the thing where I would like to listen to music now, and he just won't shoot or dunk or even just take shots that jeopardize his confidence. So the question for me, and I loved to see him back last night, almost getting a triple-double immediately. The question for me has always been just how aware is he of his shortcomings? And I think the infuriating part of Ben Simmons for so many people is that he refuses to admit that he has shortcomings. And that dynamic is so funny to me, even if it maybe is the only way you can cope with the fact that those shortcomings are obvious to literally everybody else.
He came out guns blazing last night, 5 of 5 from the field. I mean, that's a lot of shot attempts for Ben Simmons. Seriously.
That's a funny quote from him. I mean, you would think he would arrive quietly, and no, that's not the way he's arriving.
Wait, do people want him to just meekly? This is the thing I'm saying, though. Do people want him to meekly say I want to just declare for everybody here that I suck and I have not played in a very long time, so please just be gentle on me as I try to humbly reinsert myself into the world of basketball? Or do you want him to be this character who actually was once upon a time, literally not so long ago, an all NBA caliber player?
It'd be great to see Ben Simmons back with a level of confidence. He said, "As soon as I checked in, I told them, you know what time it is." That's another quote from Ben Simmons last night.
I love this. I love this man. I am now being re-radicalized into why I rooted for him. Because he's trolling everybody, but also I think he just needs to say it to feel better about himself. Because he was the number 1 overall pick. Like, there's no other. He was hailed as the next LeBron, and of course he is not that. But man, that guy just needs to believe that he is still exactly the story that he tells himself to make himself feel better about himself.
Stugotz, Ariel Helwani, I believe to be one of the finest sports journalists working anywhere. He is honorable, he is fair, he is perspective rich, and he went on Pablo Torre Finds Out and gave up the stories of all of the different ways that Dana White tried to bully journalism, did successfully bully journalism out of the ESPN building. But before we get to that, Pablo, I just want to point out what the lane that Dana White is taking now versus the lane he took 10 years ago, because he's seen the lane that profits off of being a professional asshole. Look at this. This is just a couple of weeks ago. This is Dana White basically defending his middleweight champion for hate speech.
Dana, I just want to go back. You were talking about, like, you obviously give a long leash to your fighters about, you know, what they can say when they are up there with a UFC microphone, and you are getting into territory of homophobia, transphobia. Like, is there...
I don't give anybody a leash.
Well, I'm saying you...
A leash?
Like...
Free speech. And control what people say. Going to tell people what to believe. Going to tell people... I don't tell any other human being what to say, what to think, and there's no leashes on any of them. What is your question?
I was asking that question. I'll move on, though.
Yeah, probably a good idea. That's ridiculous to say I give somebody a leash. Free speech, brother. People can say whatever they want, and they can believe whatever they want. And I don't think there's any... We had two gay women who fought in the co-main event. They sat on the stage with Sean Strickland. They could give a what Sean Strickland thinks, or what he says, or what his beliefs are, or what his opinions are. You know what I mean?
So that was recently, but here's Dana White 10 years ago, and the tone is different when he is, I believe it was Matt, was he talking about Matt Mitrione? Some things that were said that he was not at all down with. This is 10 years ago.
You know, I know that there was a lot of talk, free Mitrione and all this stuff with the fans, and it's freedom of speech and all this stuff. That's absolutely ridiculous. Work at any company anywhere in America and go out and say ignorant, stupid stuff publicly. Even on top of that, say it publicly in a big, you know, place where people can go read it or hear it publicly and see what happens to you, you know? And, you know, it's like, oh, we agree with what Mitrione said. Well, you can agree with what Mitrione said. If that was something that he really felt strongly about, and he said, I want to speak up, I want to be heard about this because I don't believe, and I don't disagree with everything that he said. So it's not that he didn't have a point. It's how he said it. You know, the extra things that he said. And if he was standing in front of a panel, okay, and he was going up to speak on this subject, he wouldn't have said the things that he said, and he would have said it differently. There's a way to voice your opinion without sounding like a bigot. You know what I mean? And he came off sounding like a complete jackass and a bigot. And that kind of stuff isn't going to be tolerated. The other thing was, you know, I used the F word, and we're not talking about here. And I grew up in the 80s. I used to use that word all the time. So when that happened, I am the furthest thing. I know I might look like one. The big bald dude from the UFC probably is a homophobe. I'm the furthest thing from it.
Pablo?
Yeah, I mean, first off, that sort of musical bed underneath is what I want Barkley to get from the kids today. Like, there's a beat about to drop. I want that sort of thematic effort in proving that Barkley is actually an all-time great athlete. But about Dana White, it's very funny to me, right? Like, there's a unifying theory of Dana White that Ariel walked me through, because Ariel was the guy interviewing Matt Mitrione. He was the guy interviewing Dana White, asking about punishments. And that's the sort of thing that Dana White was doing when he wanted to sell UFC to the mainstream before 2016. And why did that matter? It's because they didn't have a deal with Disney and ESPN yet. Dana White knew exactly what the households across America were wanting from the UFC, which is to say, clean it up. We don't say that stuff here. That stuff is bigoted. It's awful. Like, respectable society won't allow that. And then 2016 happens, fill in the giant blank as to what happened in 2016. But you know what happened. Dana White spoke at the Republican National Convention. And then suddenly he's realizing, wait a minute, there's a massive pivot I can make here for the same reason I was punishing this speech before, which is money, which is profit. And so it's remarkable. Look, it's remarkable that Dana White, because of that leash back and forth, by the way, which was incredible. And Ariel does a great job on my show breaking down why it was a masterclass in basically vivisecting a journalist. Dana White, off of that, has become, I would say, the foremost champion of free speech, certainly in American sports, and it's on the path to being the foremost champion of free speech in American life, right? Dana White is saying, free speech, comma, brother. That's the only policy I have. Now, was it the case 10 years ago, 5 years ago? Not in that same way. But now, Dan, all I'm pointing out is that I don't think it's plausible to be the foremost free speech absolutist in America when the thing you're really protecting is money. And ask Ariel Helwani about how his freedom of speech was treated by Dana White as the counterpoint to what it is that Dana White really cares about when it comes to protecting his business.
We have less than a minute left, but for those who have not seen or heard the podcast, tell us the best of what Ariel told you, because I've heard some of the stories, and I don't think he's told them all publicly. It was really bad. I experienced some of them with him at ESPN. It was really bad. He has not said everything that happened there.
No. Look, the point here is very simple. It's not about canceling Dana White. It's not about moralizing. It's simply about free speech, in theory, is about not just protecting the speech that makes you money. It's about protecting the speech that makes you uncomfortable. And so Ariel Helwani not only breaks stories about, Brock Lesnar is going to come back and fight, he breaks stories about fighter pay, about treatment of the employees who are not employees or independent contractors at the UFC. And so when Ariel Helwani left ESPN, he got a text from an unknown number that he says was Dana White. And it was mocking. It was, I told you I was going to get rid of you. It's about how he got banned from covering UFC for 48 hours famously. And Dana White told him, Lorenzo Fertitta, he put a bullet in your head. It's about Ariel saying he fully believes that, and he said this on the show, that if he walked out of our studio and got hit by a bus, that Dana White would cheer. And so it's about this thing that we see now, right? Forget stick to sports. That's over. Now it's say whatever you want, as long as I could plausibly claim that I'm in favor of freedom when really I'm in favor of making money. It's a story about America and our politics now, and Dana White happens to be the center of a Venn diagram that is both very funny when you see what he used to be, but also actually ridiculous to suggest genuine when it comes to his policy and his standards.
Pablo Torre finds out all of the interesting things. He is following his curiosities to the end of the earth.
Then what?
Pablo Torre finds out
The
is
Earth's
the
round,
name
Dan.
of the podcast.
My favorite part of that segment was Greg's lone contribution of hitting the microphone with his thermos.
Yes, mine too.
How'd that turn out?
Thanks, Greg.
We do have a lot of things to get to. Stugotz hasn't just discovered that the Suns might be good, but he's also discovered that Shannon Sharpe is good at the take.
Yes.
And he has discovered as well that Tom Brady is sharpening the take, trying to get better at the take. It is not a strength. We will get to that in a moment. Greg Cody has a lot of thoughts on eggs that we have to get to. It's all he brought in today. When he was asked if he had any thoughts on anything, all he brought in was the proper way to eat eggs. And we'll get to that in just a second. Again,
Other than all the other stuff on my list,
like hitting the microphone with your thermos while we were
that
talking
was on there
to
as
Pablo
well.
Torre.
I checked that off as soon as that happened. Right.
He also has day-old football takes. He's got a lot of those that he wants to get to. So it's not just eggs. It's also the expiration date on some of these takes it's expired, but he wants to get them off anyway.
Okay, so let me get this straight. The Super Bowl is in like 10 days, but it's already a dead topic. Like you can't talk about a Super Bowl that's happening February 11th. Because you didn't talk about it yesterday.
I don't think you want to talk about the Super Bowl. You want to talk about the games that we already talked about on Sunday night and Monday morning.
Well, it's because what Dan Campbell did is rob America of the Super Bowl that America wanted, which is Detroit in it. Dan Campbell, he kneecapped his own team. He made two decisions in the fourth quarter that literally cost them the Super Bowl.
So this is you previewing the Super Bowl, right? These are
right.
not reheated takes from 2 days ago.
I think Greg is upset because he feels like the better matchup would have been Kansas City and Detroit.
Right.
He would have preferred to see that, and he's right. Dan Campbell robbed us of that opportunity. Tom Brady agrees.
Right. Baltimore and Detroit would have been the ideal Super Bowl. And Lamar Jackson failed, but that's fine. That's what he does, apparently, in the playoffs. But Dan Campbell, his macho...
You're previewing the Super Bowl by
ridiculous.
Talking about all of the people and players that aren't in the Super Bowl.
No, he's previewing his preview of the Super Bowl. He hasn't gotten to the points yet. He's just telling us what they will be.
That's correct.
The Ravens did beat the hell out of the Lions earlier in the season, but you still wanted to see a rematch of that in the Super Bowl?
I did. And because of wishful bets, I think there's a chance Detroit might have actually been favored. Because by then they would have been, the team of destiny and all that bullshit.
No, they would not have been favored.
I think they might have been. A lot of people place wishful bets.
We'll never know because Dan Campbell ruined it.
Well, hold on a second because the Niners are favored, and so if Detroit beats San Francisco in San Francisco, you don't think maybe
Detroit
a 1-point favorite?
Detroit was a 7-point dog at San Francisco. They weren't going to be a favorite against Baltimore.
Well, you don't know that, do you?
No, I do know that.
Do you?
I know that as much as I know anything I've ever known.
No
You
way
don't
to
know
know
that.
Yeah,
There's betting trends. That's why the Jets.
There is a way to know that.
They'll never know.
The Jets and the Giants are always overbet. Their lines are always off by a point or two because of wishful bets. Americans who never bet would have bet on the Lions just because they hoped it happened.
Greg ain't lying.
You don't
I'm not lying.
understand how.
Like The Pride of a Lion, the book that you can get anywhere now, including Amazon.
Well done.
But I'm not lying about this. The Detroit Lions, because of wishful bets from one-time bettors, might have been favored over Baltimore.
You should have led with eggs.
Could you imagine how great that would have been for business, Dan, for Greg? The Lions make the Super Bowl. People say, you know what, Lions, that's an interesting animal. I want to know more about lions.
That's right.
What's this?
That's exactly right.
Pride of a Lion?
I
A brand
heard
new
I
book?
heard Stugotz saying that what he wants to do in Vegas next week is take Greg Cody along Radio Row with that book and just force him on Nasty Nestor on morning radio in Baltimore and force Greg Cody upon an assortment of radio enterprises.
I want to be his handler. I want to walk Greg through Radio Row. I know where all the tables are set up. I know who is sitting where because I am the mayor of Radio Row. They send me the table diagrams before the people even know where it is they're sitting. So I know where all the big shows are set up. I have access to all the big shows. I would like to walk Greg around Radio Row and I will get him on every radio show
We
in
have to
America.
do this.
Yes.
Well, the key to that is what Stugotz is saying is he needs a handler, if not two handlers. You need some sort of commotion, hubbub around him, and then people will be coming to you saying, "Who's that? Oh, who's that? Who's that? Who's that? Oh, that's Greg Cody from the Dan Le Batard Show with Stugotz. Oh, that's Greg Cody from the Greg Cody Show with Greg Cody." And then that's how you get him on the shows. You need a hubbub around him. You need like almost like the Pigpen from Peanuts, how he has that smoke cloud around him. That's what Greg needs at Radio Row.
We've effectively done this before in the past because Roy had a resemblance to Terrell Owens at the time. We just had a bunch of people walking around Roy, and we convinced everyone around us that he was actually T.O., and then we sat him down next to Ryan Howard and Jared Fogle of Subway, which was very unfortunate in retrospect.
Wow. That did not age well, that bit.
The hypothetical line provided by DraftKings on Baltimore-Detroit is Baltimore favored by 3.5. So
That's all, huh?
We do know.
Not 7.
Well,
but
you don't
3.5.
know. It's a hypothetical.
Right,
You don't know
like,
reality.
they
What's
just
the line
made
at
that
kickoff?
up.
Right.
What do they know?
DraftKings?
Yeah. I mean, what does anybody know? I meant to say.
Yeah.
DraftKings knows more than
right
most.
about that.
Don't
Kick,
get me
save, and
wrong.
Butte.
I mean, if anybody knows, it's DraftKings, but nobody knows. Nobody knows. And wishful, you never heard the theory of wishful betting?
They
The
set
crown
the
is
betting
yours.
Lines. They said when the people who set the betting
That
lines.
actually counts as a live read, I think. Promo code Dan.
And betting
DraftKings,
lines
the crown is
move.
yours.
You may not have noticed betting lines move.
Well said.
Not
yes.
3.5 points. They don't.
No,
Sometimes
but they
they-
set
how
the
about if-
line. The public decides.
Right. If a quarterback is injured, it moves 3.5.
Can we
points.
go with
If
eggs?
a quarterback's injured,
Just
okay.
want eggs.
So now it's moved to well, if Lamar Jackson was hurt,
Correct.
then maybe Detroit
You
would
started
Yeah.
the hypothetical
Thank you.
game. I mean, if you open the hypothetical door, we're gonna.
Am I wrong?
You have a known thing in eggs that would deliver.
Eggs are incredible, huh?
The incredible egg.
Who's the first person that saw them and thought, you know what? I want that in my mouth.
Well, was it the chicken? Who knows?
Greg, what is the proper way to eat the eggs the way that you were talking about eating them?
We're talking about a fried egg. There's a million different ways you can make eggs, obviously. The fried egg requires you to crack the shell just perfectly. It's all in the shell cracking with a fried egg. But what I was wondering is, I have a particular way of eating a fried egg. And I like the fried egg I like that yolk runny. But the way I eat a fried egg, and this is out of curiosity, I'm asking if others do the same. I eat around the yolk. I eat all the white of the egg first. And you have to be as delicate as a surgeon.
No yellow? No yolk.
Let me finish.
Let him cook, Dan. Let him cook.
You have to be as
Let 'em
delicate
fry.
as a surgeon to get around that yolk without breaking it. If you nick the yolk and the yellow starts running, the entire thing is ruined. So what you do is you carefully eat around, you eat all the white, and at the end what you have is a giant yellow eye alone on the plate staring at you, the yolk of the egg. And then you take your triangle of toast, the sharp point, you jab it gently right in the middle of the eye. The eye starts oozing yellow gold, and then you dip the toast in it, and that's when your egg comes alive. The white is superfluous. The white is superfluous. People who eat these white omelets and no yolk in the omelet, forget about that. The egg does its work when you get to the yolk, and that's how to eat a fried egg. But I'm curious if I'm alone on that or if other people do that.
I should have started
Well
with
done.
eggs.
Yep.
I should have started
Do
with
other
eggs.
people
on
do
you.
that?
No, that was beautiful.
Do you really?
Well done, man.
That was really well done with the eggs.
Bon
Yeah.
pan total.
Are you
I'm gonna
serious?
try it that way.
Yeah.
Okay.
I actually really like the yolk, and I like it when the yolk goes over the egg white. And you don't like to mix the two flavors,
No.
but I'm going to try it your way because of
should.
how beautifully you put that.
It is liquid gold. I'm telling you. It is
The
liquid
problem
gold.
with that
He's
is,
not yoking. You were saying?
the problem with that is that when you're eating the egg whites, you're getting no flavor. You're waiting for the payoff, and all you're doing is eating egg whites that are so dry that I'd prefer just a little yellow in the egg whites to give it a little bit of flavor,
Yeah.
so I don't feel like I'm just eating printed paper.
Well, cook your eggs better, number one. Number two, you salt and pepper the yellow. The
exactly
yellow
right,
doesn't
Greg.
need salt and pepper.
No.
Let's get that straight.
Liquid gold.
The white does. You carefully salt and pepper around the yolk, And that way the white of the egg is not a pleasurable experience like the yolk, but more than tolerable, because you know what? You know you're getting to the yolk.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like you're mining for gold.
It's a slow build-up dance, foreplay.
It
egg
is. That's
foreplay.
exactly what it is.
Mm-hmm.
It's a sexual experience in the breakfast table.
Dan, I know you've done it with panko mantequilla, where you wait for that last drop and then you hit it with the. Oh my God, so good.
Oh, it's beautiful. It's the best thing in cuisine. It really is. The yolk of an egg.
Well, you guys tell me, as Cubans there in the back row.
That's me honoring the chicken. That's the sound of a chicken. And when I eat an egg yolk, I have mad respect for the person who laid it.
Do you think the chickens are proud? Like when you eat an egg and you enjoy it, the chicken views it as like the chicken's the chef of this egg and is proud to serve you this meal.
Yeah, no, it's beautiful. It's a wonderful thing, and the chickens act proud. I don't know if you've ever watched chickens.
Certain struts sometimes.
Yeah,
they lay the egg.
They saunter through the farmyard. They're going badap. You know, they're like very yeah. They're the cock of the walk. You know.
Well, they're not. They're
well, but they're like that. They're all poultry. Walk like. Even turkeys, you know, with the big thing, the big red thing, they're walking around. They have no idea they're about to have their head chopped off. They're oblivious, but until they die,
but a proud bird.
Death, they're a proud bird.
A proud bird,
and they show it. Unlike some animals, they show it.
Yeah.
What I was going to ask the back row is, what do you imagine is better to dip your pan con mantequilla in, the yolk or café con leche?
Hey, you want some pasta and seafood dishes with fresh fish?
You split the baby in two. You have one pan that you put in the egg,
one.
and then you
pick
put salt
one.
on it.
Pick one, you coward.
Café con leche.